Late at night, my grandson entered my room. His words rendered me utterly speechless. I can hardly contain my excitement about what my grandson Lucas confided in me that evening. As I drifted in and out of slumber, the house enveloped in silence. A gentle creak from my bedroom door broke the stillness. The events that followed, along with his words, rendered me completely speechless and transformed my perspective entirely. It exceeded my expectations. It was truly remarkable. From which location are you viewing? Please share your city in the comments. I am eager to discover the extent of this story's reach. It was never my intention to share this with anyone, much less to articulate it out loud. Yet the events of that night have lingered with me in a manner that defies explanation. Perhaps it was the silence that ensued, or perhaps it was simply that in the tranquility of those moments, I experienced a sense of being truly acknowledged for the first time in what seems like years. The hour was late, approaching 11:30, if my memory serves me correctly. I had already settled in for the night, enveloped in my cotton robe, nestled beneath the well-worn quilt that my mother crafted many years ago. The residence was serene, marked only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the sporadic whisper of the wind brushing against the windows. Lucas had come to spend the weekend with me while his parents were away on a trip. I offered to keep an eye on him, despite the fact that he was more than capable of taking care of himself at 25. I had no anticipation of anything out of the ordinary occurring that evening. We enjoyed a delightful dinner of roast chicken and mashed potatoes, my go-to comfort food, followed by an engaging viewing of an old black and white film on television. I believed he had retired for the night sometime earlier, yet just as I began to succumb to slumber, I perceived the gentle click of the door handle, accompanied by the slightest whisper of creaking hinges. I gradually opened my eyes, blinking as the warm, soft light from the hallway enveloped me. And there he stood, Lucas. His silhouette stood poised in the doorway, one hand gently resting against the door frame. My heart raced slightly. I was not afraid, merely taken aback. "Lucas," I murmured, my voice hoarse from slumber. "Is everything okay?" He paused, an unusual occurrence for him. Lucas exuded certainty, displaying unwavering confidence in every action he took. He cleared his throat and stepped inside with caution. Indeed, rest eluded me. I propped myself up slightly, enveloping myself in the quilt. "Please step inside, dear. Please take a seat. What are you thinking about?" He approached the side of the bed with deliberate slowness, settling himself on the edge, his gaze fixed intently on a point on the floor. The silence lingered between us, dense and imbued with an unidentifiable essence. I observed him intently, truly observing every detail. The manner in which his jaw flexed, coupled with the way his fingers fidgeted with the seam of his shirt. A burden rested heavily upon him. He finally spoke, reflecting on a multitude of thoughts that had been occupying his mind. "It's time, and it's about you." I was taken aback by that. I was unaware that I had occupied a space in his thoughts recently. While we share a strong connection, I often sense that as I age, I tend to blend more into the background. Similar to wallpaper, it provides a sense of familiarity and comfort, yet often goes unnoticed. I extended my hand and softly rested it upon his. "What about me, my dear?" He glanced upward, and in his eyes there was an abundance of emotion. Not quite sadness, but rather a sense of yearning, a profound, contemplative pain that I identified solely because I had experienced it as well during the hushed moments when the world overlooks our existence. "You're still the same person, Grandma," he remarked. It seems that many individuals may not recognize that. It seems they notice your age, your gray hair, and the lines on your hands. However, I perceive your presence. A woman who danced barefoot in the kitchen, her movements graceful and free, whenever she thought no one was watching. The individual who hummed softly as they painted, sharing tales as if they were cherished secrets intended solely for my ears. My throat constricted. The straightforward sincerity and the genuine warmth in his words resonated within me, awakening feelings I believed had long since faded away. "Ah, Lucas." I gently brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. "That signifies more than you realize." He offered a gentle, unhurried smile. He leaned back slightly and let out a sigh. I felt it was important to express this. For reasons unknown, it seemed significant. "You have consistently been the pillar of strength in our family, a subtle yet powerful strength. I am beginning to understand just how uncommon that truly is." I did not reply immediately. I was unable to do so. My heart overflowed, and my mind busily unraveled memories I had not explored in years. In recent nights, tending to a colicky infant who was once his father, reveling in the rhythm of jazz records with my late husband as the rain gently tapped against the windows. Throughout the many lives I have experienced within this same body, I now feel the weight of age pressing upon me. We lingered in that quietude for an extended period, just the two of us. I could perceive his breathing, steady and tranquil, and sense the warmth of his hand resting beneath mine. I'm not sure if he... "I love you too, Lucas," I whispered, gripping his hand just a bit tighter. "Beyond your comprehension." He lingered for a few additional moments, offering me a subtle, appreciative smile before retreating into the hallway and gently shutting the door behind him. I remained awake for an extended period, gazing at the shadows dancing across the ceiling. At that moment, I did not perceive myself as aging. I did not feel overlooked. I experienced a profound sense of vitality. Perhaps it is the most unforeseen moments in life that truly connect us to our humanity. That evening, in that gentle, unpretentious moment, I was reminded of my significance, not for my past self, but for the person I continue to be. The morning sunlight filtered through the lace curtains, creating delicate patterns on the bedroom floor. I would remain in bed longer than usual, the gentle warmth of the rising sun caressing my face. However, it was not solely the weather that prevented me from rising. The sensation persisted from the previous evening. The words of Lucas resonated in my thoughts, reminiscent of a cherished melody I was determined to remember. "You remain distinctly yourself." Isn't it a remarkably straightforward concept? And yet, it had been years since anyone had expressed it to me, possibly several decades. At the age of 78, individuals often find that conversations occur in their vicinity without direct engagement. They presume you have ceased to engage with life, to experience emotions, to desire. They soften their tones, moderate their pace, and in an instant you become merely a person they occasionally inquire about. However, Lucas observed me. I was not prepared to relinquish that. Once I had dressed and secured my robe, I made my way to the kitchen, where I discovered him already present, barefoot and clad in a well-worn t-shirt that seemed slightly snug against his broad shoulders. He was expertly scrambling eggs, the skillet emitting a gentle sizzle. "Good morning," I remarked, observing him from the doorway. He glanced my way and offered a genuine smile, effortless and youthful. "Hello. I thought a gradual beginning might be beneficial for you today." I found myself warming to the idea. a chuckle escaping my lips as I stepped in to join him. This was not necessary, you realize. I had the desire to. He presented me with a steaming mug of coffee, precisely to my preference. 2 sugars, a splash of milk, no inquiries made. That caused me to reflect. The small details consistently matter. We gathered at the petite, round table by the window, enjoying a serene silence as we dined for a few moments. The morning birds sang outside, and I caught myself looking at him more frequently than usual, not in any improper manner, merely contemplative and intrigued. Lucas had consistently exhibited kindness, yet there was an undeniable change within him now, a newfound depth that had previously escaped my attention. He shattered the stillness. Do you recall those times from my childhood when I would seek comfort by crawling into your bed during storms? I chuckled softly, shaking my head in amusement. Absolutely, I do. You would enter wearing those adorable dinosaur pajamas, holding your stuffed bear tightly, as if it were essential to your very existence. He offered a smile and cast his gaze down at his plate. I believe it wasn't truly the storm that instilled fear in me. I believe I experienced a sense of safety in your presence. That resonated with me on a profound level, far beyond his awareness. There is a unique reassurance in the understanding that someone has consistently found solace in your company. It validates your existence, particularly when the surrounding world seems to overlook you. I never minded, I remarked gently. I genuinely anticipated it, even when I feigned indifference. He gazed at me then, directly, unwavering. Last night, I found myself yearning for that feeling once more. Lately, I've been navigating some challenges, and I felt a strong inclination to reach out to you, reminiscent of our past conversations. I set my fork aside and leaned forward, propping my chin on my hand. Hello, Lucas. What's happening? Feel free to share anything with me. He paused. I noticed it once more. That familiar hesitation from the previous night. His hands intertwined on the table, fingers fidgeting with unease. I have been experiencing a sense of disconnection recently. I find myself questioning my place, whether it be at work, in my relationships, or even within my own family. It seems as though I am fulfilling all my obligations, yet nothing feels genuine. I nodded in agreement, taking my time to acknowledge the point made. That is not solely a challenge faced by the younger generation, Swethart. That sensation of soaring above your own existence, I am well acquainted with it. Once more, his gaze locked onto mine, revealing a depth of inquiry within. You do indeed, indeed, I affirmed. It is often presumed that by the time one reaches my age, all aspects of life become clear. However, it does not. You simply become more adept at concealing the inquiries, yet they remain, silent figures pondering the question, was I sufficient? Have I overlooked something? Am I still of value? A prolonged silence enveloped us, a pleasant one, rich with the warmth of sincerity. Lucas extended his hand across the table, covering mine once more, reminiscent of the previous night. It felt entirely normal. It felt entirely natural. It simply felt warm. I don't believe I've ever truly inquired about your life prior to our time together, he remarked. In the past, you held the title of Grandma. Who were you, Ashley? Hearing that name, my name, from his lips felt remarkably refreshing. Not Grandma. Not Grandma. Ashley only. I was a woman with a story, a life of profound significance. I offered a subtle smile. Once, I was a dancer, not in a professional capacity, but deeply within my heart. I attended classes downtown while her grandfather was stationed abroad. I was youthful and full of energy. I would immerse myself in dance for hours, completely losing track of time. "Why did you stop?" he inquired softly. I accepted that the truth weighed more than I could carry. Life has beckoned me to embrace different roles. A devoted wife, a nurturing mother, a steadfast provider. I dedicated my entire self to it. I have no regrets. Yet, there are moments when I contemplate how different things might have been had I clung to just a bit more of her essence. Lucas nodded as if he comprehended, despite not fully grasping the situation. "I would like to gain further insight into her. Concerning you." I extended my hand, gently running my fingers along the edge of his hair, just as I did when he was a child. "Please feel free to ask me. I am present here." Throughout the remainder of the morning, that is precisely what we engaged in. We gathered around that quaint kitchen table and engaged in conversation. Engaged in a meaningful conversation. He inquired about my first kiss, the initial experience of driving a car, and the evening I encountered his grandfather. I conveyed my message to him. I unlocked the vault and allowed the fragments of my being to awaken once more. For the first time in years, I found myself not merely recalling. I found myself immersed in memories. A subtle and exquisite change had occurred between us. It had evolved beyond the simple relationship of grandmother and grandson. Two souls converged in the midst of time, closing the divide between youth and age, discovering the essence of one another beyond mere roles, recognizing each other as individuals. Deep down, I was aware that this weekend would transform us both for eternity. That afternoon, the weather changed. Heavy clouds gathered above the hills, and the illumination within the house dimmed to a muted gray, creating an atmosphere that felt more intimate and serene, as if the world had chosen to speak in whispers. Lucas and I settled into the living room, each of us nestled at opposite ends of the couch, a blanket draped over our legs. The silence enveloped us, a rare stillness that required no words, a presence only found in the company of someone who understands the art of simply being together. I had just completed recounting a road trip I embarked on in my 20s, a time when I was convinced that California held the key to all my inquiries. He listened as if I were reciting scripture, his eyes fixed on me, the cadence of my voice anchoring him in the moment. "You were incredibly brave," he remarked gently, after I shared my experience of spending 2 nights in my old VW Beetle outside of Beachtown, a place where I was a complete stranger. I doubt I could ever accomplish that. I regarded him not merely as my grandson or even as a young man in his 20s, but as a soul, one who experienced emotions profoundly, perhaps excessively. "Lucas, your courage is greater than you realize as you navigate through uncertainty and continue your quest. That requires a level of courage that many individuals never attempt to achieve." He smiled softly, a hint of shyness in his demeanor, and then remarked, "I believe you're the first person to truly perceive me in that way." That silent pause lingered between us, akin to a breath suspended beyond its limit. A change occurred once more, subtle yet undeniable. I sensed it in the manner his foot grazed mine beneath the blanket, lingering for a moment longer than mere coincidence permitted. It may not have been deliberate, yet it was certainly not coincidental. I did not relocate it. I tilted my head and inquired, "What do you see when you look at me, Lucas?" "Neither Grandma nor Ashley, just myself." Initially, he remained silent. His brows knitted slightly, as if he were uncertain about whether to voice his thoughts or how to articulate them. He finally expressed, "I see someone I wish I could have known earlier, prior to the burdens of life taking their toll on you. A person brimming with passion, a person from whom I should have sought stories long ago. He took a moment to pause, then more subdued. Someone with whom I share a deeper connection than I have ever experienced with anyone else. I took a deep breath, not due to the fear instilled by his words, but because I was familiar with them. I had experienced it as well, a subtle yet powerful essence, devoid of romance. Nothing quite so straightforward or off-limits, simply human. A unique intimacy forged through sincerity rather than roles or expectations. I assured you that you are not alone in feeling this way. Indeed, it was true. At some point during our discussions, I ceased to perceive him as the young boy I once tucked in. He had become a man, a person filled with inquiries and apprehensions, possessing a profound depth and an unexpected tenderness that surpasses my wildest expectations. I extended my hand toward his, not driven by intention or significance, but simply because it felt appropriate. The atmosphere was pleasantly warm, robust. For an extended moment, we remained seated in that manner. The rain commenced gently, tapping against the windows, akin to delicate fingertips on glass. He moved in closer, not too close, yet just enough for his shoulder to graze mine as he leaned his head back against the cushion. "I wish I didn't have to return home tomorrow," he remarked. I glanced at him, observing the contour of his cheek, the weariness in his eyes, and the manner in which he communicated with a subtle sense of vulnerability. "Would you consider staying for another night?" He cast a brief look in my direction. "Are you certain?" I offered a smile. "It has been quite some time since I have enjoyed such company. It has been beneficial for me." He paused. He then leaned his head softly against my shoulder. "It has also been beneficial for me." We remained in that state until the rain ceased, and when the power went out an hour later, as is common during summer storms in my area, we lit candles and played records from my vintage collection, music from an era he did not experience, yet felt an undeniable connection to. He rose to his feet and extended his hand. "Join me on the dance floor." I chuckled softly, shaking my head in disbelief. "Lucas, my knees are not in the same condition they once were." "I'll go slow," he promised, a grin spreading across his face. I allowed him to assist me in rising to my feet. I allowed him to direct my hands to his shoulders and his arms to my waist, and we glided barefoot across the living room floor. The record emitted a gentle crackle beneath the smooth notes of the jazz trumpet, while the candlelight danced against the walls, transporting us to a realm untouched by time. As we moved, he gazed into my eyes, and in that moment, I perceived something profound, not desire nor confusion, but a striking clarity, an extensive shared comprehension. "You're still that dancer," he murmured. "I observe her presence." In that moment, I found myself believing it as well. Our conversations dwindled significantly following that moment. He assisted me to bed, pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead as he had the previous night, and lingered in the doorway once more, just as he had done then. Before departing, he turned back and expressed his gratitude, saying, "Thank you, Ashley." I expressed my gratitude, saying, "Thank you, Lucas, for the reminder." As the door clicked shut behind him, I remained in the darkness, my heart brimming with a fullness it hadn't known in years. What had developed between us transcended boundaries and labels. The essence revolved around truth, presence, perception, and the act of being perceived. And this was merely the outset. The following morning unfolded in a distinct manner, not due to the events that transpired. There was no significant moment, no embrace beneath the stars, no boundaries breached. However, An unspoken understanding had taken root between us. Similar to the dust that dances in the light following a disturbance, it exuded tranquility, stability, and completeness. The aroma of freshly toasted bread filled the air, accompanied by the soft clinking of a pan on the stove. Once more, "It is Lucas." He was softly humming, the familiar Sam Cooke melody we swayed to the previous evening. It brought a smile to my face even before I opened my eyes. I donned my robe and made my way into the kitchen with a soft shuffle. He turned upon hearing me, that effortless grin already in place, anticipating the moment. "Good morning, Ashley," he said. "Not Grandma, Ashley." It was as though he sought to pay tribute to the woman I had been long before our paths crossed. "Good morning," I said, my voice imbued with the softness of slumber. He graciously pulled out a chair for me and carefully set a plate down. Toast, eggs, and a small bowl of strawberries, likely discovered in the back of the fridge. "We have decided to continue the tradition." We savored our meal, taking our time with each bite. He inquired further about my history, the friends I had drifted away from, the literature I once immersed myself in, and the aspirations I had put on hold. I addressed all of the questions and inquired about him as well, concerning the young woman who shattered his heart during the previous winter, regarding the reasons for his departure from the position he diligently pursued. He often experiences a sense of drifting through life, lacking a clear direction. We went all in. There was no necessity for that. The comfort had transformed into something sacred. At last, I rose and approached the window, savoring the final sip of my coffee. "I once believed," I said softly, "that there comes a time in life when surprises cease to exist." You had reviewed all the chapters, and now it was merely a matter of revisiting the same lines. Lucas positioned himself next to me, so near that I could sense his presence without even glancing over. I looked up at him and offered a smile. "I've come to understand that there is always another chapter on the horizon. One simply needs to embrace the opportunity to turn the page." He inclined his head gradually. "You assisted me in transforming my own, as you are aware." That truly resonated with me. That singular sentence, delivered with such sincerity, resonated profoundly within. I regarded him not merely as my grandson, nor as a younger individual, nor even as a family member, but as someone I had come to know, respect, and care for in ways that eluded complete explanation. I expressed my gratitude for your decision to remain. He expressed his satisfaction by saying, "I'm glad I came." A lengthy silence ensued, a moment of silence where words lose their significance, as all that truly matters has already been expressed. The silence was not uncomfortable, rather it was laden with significance. However, he shattered the moment with a gentle laugh. "I must admit, I've never shared the thoughts I expressed to you this weekend with anyone before." I let out a soft chuckle. I believe I possess strong listening skills. He shook his head in disapproval. "It encompasses much more than that. You provided a sense of safety, free from judgment. I felt free to be my true self, and you would still recognize the goodness within me." My eyes glistened with a hint of moisture. "It is due to the abundance of goodness that resides within you." He extended his hand toward mine once more, just as he had done previously, and clasped it gently between both of his. It did not feel unusual. It did not seem out of place. It was as if two individuals were grasping tightly to something they understood would effortlessly elude them if they let go. He expressed his intention to visit more frequently. "You should certainly do so," I playfully provoked. He smiled, yet there was a gentler essence underlying it. "I truly mean it. I wish for what we discovered to endure." "It need not be the case," I remarked. "We must continue to make that choice." Perhaps that was the most genuine statement either of us had ever expressed. That afternoon, he meticulously packed his bag. I assisted him in folding his shirt sleeves perfectly, discreetly placing a small note into the side pocket as I used to do when he left for school. At the door, he embraced me warmly, more constricted than normal. His scent was a blend of cedarwood and fresh soap, and I lingered a moment longer than necessary with my cheek pressed against his shoulder. "I love you, Ashley," he whispered. "I reciprocate your feelings, Lucas, just as you are." He took a step back, his eyes gleaming with an emotion he made no effort to conceal. "Farewell for the time being." "It is not a farewell," I clarified, "until we meet again." And then he vanished. The house resonated with a serene quietude thereafter, yet it remained far from empty. His presence remained palpable in the warmth of the air, in the neatly folded blankets, and in the echoes of our laughter that still resonated in the corners of every room. That evening, I positioned myself by the window, with my journal resting on my lap and a pen poised in my hand. I documented every word he spoke and captured all my emotions, not merely to avoid forgetting, but to capture the essence of what it meant to be acknowledged, to be cherished not for my past, but for the person I continue to be. I came to understand that life continues to present us with fresh starts, even at the age of 78. At times, the most surprising and beautiful connections arise not from romance or external influences, but from the profound understanding of someone who sees beyond the surface and gazes directly into your heart. That weekend not only deepened my connection with Lucas, but also rekindled my sense of self.